Welcome back, everybody. Hey, we got a great episode here for you today. We got Gavin Bruni of the Fredericksburg Nationals coming on to join us here. He's going to talk to us a little bit about some of his journey and how he's kind of gone from, high school to D1 college to being drafted by the Nationals and playing some minor league ball at the moment. We got some good questions from him. He's got some good responses, and I'm really excited for you guys to watch this and kind of follow along. So let's get going. All right, Gavin. Well, thanks for coming on. I just want to thank you for being a part of this. I appreciate it. I know you're kind of doing me a favor by coming on here, and I know that we've already talked, you're busy, and your schedule's crazy, and free time is here and there, but I appreciate having you on and letting me pick your brain on a couple different things about your journey and baseball and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
Yep. So, um, Gavin, you're a pitcher for the Fredericksburg Nationals right now, but you've had a pretty interesting journey so far, and I didn't get to be a part of all of it. I would have liked to have been, but I remember, believe it or not, you playing in eighth grade
hmm
basketball. I coached basketball as well, and I went to watch you guys, and I was talking. I don't know, are you the same age as Connor Evanich?
You're older, but I know we always played each other growing up in basketball.
Right, and I was talking to the coach at Marlington, and he was saying, you're a stud at baseball, and I was like, he's in eighth grade, we'll see, and then yeah. So, what we're gonna do here, we're just gonna go through a couple different things. We're gonna kind of go through your journey, and I know that a lot of the people who do end up listening to this, or some of the people I've talked to that wanted to ask you questions or things that we're interested in, we're gonna bounce some of those off of you as well, and I think dive into some of the stuff, probably some stuff you've already thought about, and hopefully we
hmm
get into some stuff you haven't thought about yet. So
Yeah,
make it a little more interesting. But so
good.
growing
I'm
up,
an open book.
yeah, well, I appreciate that. Growing up, what drew you to baseball? So what were like, we all have our like testimonies for baseball, but what drew you to it? Who are the people that kind of like, this is something I want to like spend hours on day, dedicating
Mhm.
my life to?
Yeah, I think from the time I was young, from what I've heard, I don't remember any of it, but I always walked around with a little Tykes plastic baseball tee and a little Tykes plastic bat, and anytime I could get my hands on a baseball or a wiffle ball, or whatever, I was throwing it. I wanted, my dad, my grandpa would have been to flip me the ball so I could hit it and run to first base and see if they could get me out, stuff like that. So I think that started early on, and then the more I grew up, the more I got to watch the game and see guys that were a little bit older than me play the game. It really just let me gravitate towards the competitiveness of the game. A lot of sports, there's a time limit. You got 60 minutes or whatever it could be. In baseball, it's very unpredictable. You could play a 2-hour game, a 4-hour game, and that to me was the beauty in the game of like, okay, there's not necessarily somebody telling you the game's over. The game's over when the game's over. So it's like, yeah, you play 9 innings, but 9 innings is very vague in how long it could be. So I think just being able to kind of, in that sense, control the game a little bit more so than like, oh, time ran out. So I think there's different aspects of the game that you don't find in every other sport. So I think just that kind of stuff as you got older, as you kind of learned about the game was really interesting and really fun.
You brought up some good points. Yeah, you don't have to. The clock can't beat you. in baseball.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think in football and basketball, that's definitely something that, the clock can be your advantage or can be your enemy, just
Yeah.
depending on strategy, situation, stuff like that. But with baseball, it's kinda like, chess. You're kinda trying to
Yeah.
set up different scenarios so that you are in the best position for success. So, that's a good
It,
point. The other thing you brought up that I like that you said, and I think that, I like telling my guys this when we do clinics and stuff, is that you are a hero to some of these little kids. I mean, you don't even have to be the best player on the team. You're just an older kid who knows how to play the game. You're a little bit stronger, and so, like, yeah, you look up to those
yeah.
guys, and that
100%.
that was that's as a coach now, I see that a lot more. But I remember when I was a little kid, there was just guys that I was just like, I wanna know everything. I want your autograph. I wanna know everything about you, and, some bench player on JV or something.
Hmm.
But, when you love a sport, yeah, you look up to those guys, and that's good. That's the passion, the fuel that I was kinda looking for there. Yeah,
Hmm.
good. So, I'm not gonna go too much into your high school career, because I'm more interested in kind of like that path afterwards.
Hmm.
High school baseball. A lot more people get to play it, and when you play the percentages, the number games, not many people get to play D1 baseball, let alone get drafted, let alone get a chance to play some MILB or Major League Baseball in general. So, um, you've kind of been blessed in that situation. And so what I want to ask you some questions about Ohio State and
Yeah.
just your time there.
Mhm.
Not necessarily what you had to do to get there, but at the D1 level or at the college level, like what was playing or what was pitching like. And so tell me about some of your teammates and coaches and how they helped you get to where you are now. So like they
Mhm.
set you up for that next level of success. So were there specific teammates or scenarios or coaches that like just they flipped the switch. They made it all click.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough as a freshman coming into Ohio State. I kind of built relationships with some of the guys early on, and I don't want to single anybody out because they were all great. But they all kind of took the younger guys, the underclassmen under their wing, and it developed that relationship of a brotherhood, which I know, especially my freshman year with Coach Beals, we had talked a lot about is this brotherhood at Ohio State, and that was real. So a lot of guys like we got in there, we got the work, but there was some tough love in there too, which I think for everybody is monumental for growth. I think sometimes somebody needs to get into you, they got to get into you. So and it just makes the team stronger, and it helps everybody grow. But to your sense of like what it was like at the Division 1 level, I was I fortunate, but also it was a bit of a disappointment just for the program. But I got to play for multiple head coaches, and that really gave you a different aspect of the game, different philosophies, different ways about first and thirds, all that kind of stuff was different. So the adaptability to be able to learn from multiple people and take what you can from each person and then take it onto the field. I think, from a coaching staff standpoint, I think all of them did great at that. And it was really interesting and fun to see what different minds thought of the game and how people digested the game in different ways. So I mean, from a coaching standpoint, I couldn't ask for much more. They gave me every opportunity I needed, and then from a teammate standpoint, it was that brotherhood mentality.
Yeah, I can see that. When I played, wasn't D1, but that was definitely it. You were willing to do whatever it took for the guy standing
Mhm.
next to you, and you took it to heart when they were pushing you. Said the tough love part. Um,
Oh yeah,
you
no doubt.
you definitely took it to heart when they were upset with you, or when you had that one more rep to do, or one more whatever. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was it was definitely they pushed you to be your best, and I
and
could see that.
it sticks with you. I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
they get on you one time, and next thing you know, it's like, man, I don't want to let this guy down again. So you're just pushing and pushing and pushing, and next thing you know, you got 35 guys pushing for the same thing, which is
Right.
really cool.
Right. Yeah. And the coaching side of it, yeah, I know, like once I've got to this side of it, the coaching side of it, there was definitely people along my way that I was like, "Man, I really admire them for this. Like, they do this well."
Yeah.
They might not always been my favorite person coming up as far as, like, I didn't agree with everything that they said, but I
Mhm.
definitely said, like, "This is something I wanna do," or I find myself doing it even though, you look back and you're like, "Oh, that coach, they didn't know what they were talking about," or
Yeah.
I just didn't agree with them. Um, and then, yeah, I also had coaches that I was like, "Yeah, I probably won't ever use that."
Yeah.
So
I mean,
and you don't have to answer that. You don't have to answer that. I know you're trying to, you know,
yeah. I mean, I
be
will say this: if if you agree with everything your coach says, he's probably not a very good coach. He's probably just telling you what you want to hear.
right,
There definitely should be some disagreements here and there, and
right.
that just comes with the nature of the beast. So
Yeah. Yeah,
it,
there's a level of maturity once you go through some of those things and, like, understanding that, as
yeah,
long as, the team or the brotherhood is there all protecting each other, that even the hard things are meant to better. That's a good point.
no doubt.
Um, so my next question being, like, some Ohio boys, what was it
Mhm.
like being a Buckeye? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I
School,
mean,
athletics, whatever.
as an Ohio kid, like you mentioned, you can't ask for much more. I was fortunate enough to be able to know where I was going to play college baseball at a super young age. So that was a blessing to me. And being able to grow up the Ohio State fan, you always want to go there. And but when the opportunity truly does bring itself to you, that you want to jump on it as fast as you can. So I mean, from an academic side, an athletic side, and just an overall like culture side, you couldn't have asked for much more. You always had something to do just because of how big the university was. So it's like you never struggled to have something that you can just fall back on. And like I said, the brotherhood aspect of the team, it's not just the team, it's the whole community, from the fan base to the people you're in class with. It really is. It's a place like I've never seen before. A lot of schools say they've got this culture, whatever it may be. Ohio State, they really do. They bleed scarlet and gray. So it's like whatever you need to succeed, there's people there willing to help you. So
Sure.
um, by far they were the best 3 years of my life. I mean, I can't speak enough onto the how much fun I had at Ohio State. So it was a great time.
Good. You have any crazy stories with, like, some of the football players or something?
And nothing really. I mean, they honestly, all the ones that I interacted with were pretty straightforward dudes, man. They showed up to class, did their work, and they'd talk to you, but they really just wanted to be treated like anybody else.
No Cardell Jones, "We didn't come to play school."
No, no. Well, once the portal hit, academics became a little bit more important.
Yeah.
You
Alright, so my next question to you is
Mhm.
kind of that next step. So after the Buckeyes, you get drafted 17th round by the Nationals after your junior season, right? Okay. And, what was that process like?
Yeah, that process was a stressful one. We waited around for 3 days and finally, got the name called later on day three, and the main thing was you got your opportunity. It's not really where you get picked; it's what you do once you get there. So, um, just getting that opportunity to get myself down to West Palm Beach to mini camp and getting myself acclimated was great. And then this season you go into the off season, you train, you get into spring training, and next thing you know you're fighting for a job. With that being an affiliate ball, so and with every level comes a different adjustment. Guys get better, guys get stronger. You're not getting the swing and miss you might necessarily get on in the college level, or even in the level that you pitched in the spring. So you live and you learn. You make the adjustments pitch to pitch. Sometimes it's game to game. Sometimes something's working really well for you, and then other times it's not. So just that adjustment period of what I need to do as a baseball player, once you do get your opportunity, it is really cool. So it's a journey that it can take you far, and you can go down rabbit holes and all that stuff. So just keeping yourself, that one day, one pitch at a time, and not looking too far into the, oh, I was a day three guy, this, that, and the other, whatever. It's really just about going out there and competing. Once you get your chance, like I said, it's that you can do whatever you need to do to get where you want to. So it's really on you at that point.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned that you have to make some adjustments. What are some of those adjustments? Are they like mental adjustments or like routine or
Well, yeah, especially for me, I think it can be both. Sometimes you got to have that mental adjustment of like, okay, like especially when you don't get the swing and miss that you thought you should have got. Mentally, how do you get yourself prepared for the next pitch, stuff like that. But for me, especially from a routine standpoint, at Ohio State, I was a starter. I get to pro ball, and next thing you know, you're a reliever. There's some games, I'm coming in the third inning. There's some games I'm not coming in until the seventh or eighth inning. You don't really necessarily know which days of the week you might throw. I could throw Tuesday and then throw again on Wednesday. You just never know. So that adjustment period and that finding a new routine that allows you to be ready day in and day out, so that when your numbers called upon, you're not caught like, oh crap, what do I do now? You know, so making sure that from a routine standpoint, you're nailed in, you're locked in, and you can go out and compete to your best every single time out.
yeah? What how do you feel about the reliever role?
I like it. I mean, I can't complain about it. I get to go out there. I've always said that being a starter, you have a good outing, you're on top of the world. You have a bad outing, you're kind of in the dumps for 6, 7 days. As a reliever, you go out there and you don't pitch well for an inning. Odds are you're getting the ball within the next day or two. So you don't really have time to dwell on the good or the bad. So it's blessing and a curse. So
Yeah, I feel you there. Now I wasn't at your level. I was the swings and the misses kind of thing. Playing college ball, like you going from high school being a starter, for in your case from in college being a starter to it was a complete different mindset. Yeah, in college I was closer for the last 2
mhm.
years and it was more like me against the world kind of mentality. And
Yep.
like you said, it's kind of like I get to compete every day. Like
Yeah.
I get a chance to show everybody what I can do.
Hmm.
And that was kind of it was definitely different. I didn't, kind of I didn't embrace it right off the bat. Cuz
Hmm.
when you're a starter, you feel like you're entitled something. Like I'm a
Hmm.
starter, I'm the top dog, I'm the ace, that kind of thing. But then when you get into that reliever role, you're kind of like, "Well, I just got demoted."
Yeah.
But when the higher you get up, especially pro ball, like in your case, you are just as crucial. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at like the Guardians lineup, and their bullpen. I mean, they're worth just as much as any of our starters.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a different side of it at that level. I could definitely agree with you on that. That the
Yeah.
mental approach.
I like to kind of say that you never know which run that you give up is going to win the game or lose the game, I should say. It could be the run that you gave up in the first inning as a starter loses you the game, or it could be the run that you give up in the ninth inning as the closer that loses you the game. So,
Yeah.
really, when you give up that run, when lose that lead, it doesn't really matter who is on. So it's like starter, reliever, closer, even
Yep.
the roles are always as valuable as you make them, and
Yeah.
so it really is just a completely different ball game.
I know, that's hard for high school kids. That's hard for them to understand that,
Mhm.
you may get 1 inning a game, you may get 1 inning a week, but,
Yeah,
if you're a trusted reliever your coaches trust you as much as the starters,
yeah,
to be able to take a starter out of a game and throw a kid in and know that they're gonna give you zeros on the board, that's pretty
yeah.
crucial. So,
Well, and I know especially with young guys, they look at, say they come into the game and it's a 6-1 game, they're down, and they come into the game and they're maybe pouting a little bit, getting put in the garbage time. Well, next thing you know, your team comes back, but you thought it was garbage time and gave up 2 runs. Those are the 2 runs that lose you the game. So you got to go out there every time thinking like, hey, game's on the line here. My job's on the line. Um, no matter what the situation may be.
that's a great point. I like the way you said that. Okay, so, um, pro ball. So we're
Mhm.
here. We're in Fredericksburg. Player development. What is that like? Like, what is your day to day kind of like what's your routine? I guess I'm curious. Like, once you get to
Yeah.
that level, everyone around you, you're there. There's very little you can do. They've brought
Mhm.
you in because you're a 6 foot whatever lefty throwing 95 to 97, like that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what does player development look like for a pro?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a great system in place for us from a strength and conditioning side. We don't have to worry about any of that. So once we're in season, they've got it all tailor made to us. Like whatever we need is what we get, stuff like that. And from a day to day like reliever profile of like, okay, what do we need to do today to get better? Everybody's kind of got their own three building blocks, and we go off of those. What we did well today, what we did well yesterday, and what we need to improve on. So it's like when I go out on a Tuesday and say I throw on Tuesday, I long tossed before the game, felt really good, ball was coming out well, and I went out and performed well. Well, that next day, I have to self evaluate. Okay, what did I do that day that made me good? Obviously, on that next day, it's a recovery day, so we have more time off to just kind of let the game kind of process and stuff like that. Look at film, and then on that Thursday, you got to be ready to pitch again. So it's let's go back to what we did Tuesday and let's dominate that. And from a coaching side of things, it's everybody's individualized. So whatever you need, it could be as easy as moving over on the rubber a little bit or tinkering with a grip. I mean, at this level, it's you know we're all elite level athletes at this point.
Right.
So it could just be a small fix. Or with it being the lower end of the minor leagues, it becomes a little bit more developmental at times, but the goal is always to go out there and compete with your best stuff. You might be working on something in the bullpen pregame as a reliever during our catch play that you're like, oh, this feels really good. You get out to the game mound, it might not feel good, and you got to kind of balance that. What felt good in the bullpen compared to what feels good now, and you can't necessarily be thinking over the rubber of like, oh, I'm just kind of feeling some things out. No, when you're in the game, you got to be thinking over the plate. Like I'm competing, I'm trying to get strike three, I'm trying to get a ground ball, whatever it may be. But I think to your point of like what a routine looks like is you kind of develop your own. And the coaches know that, our support staff knows that. So once you kind of develop it and then can dominate it, they kind of let you go, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the popular things now on social media is like people like watching Skeen's like pregame
Hmm.
routine and
Yeah.
like how like meticulous he is and kind of going off of him
Mhm,
to what I said. It's like he's hitting 100, 101,
mhm,
102 somewhere in there as a starter, and he's what, 24, 25 years old.
mhm.
There's not much physically you can do other than
No.
help him maintain stamina. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, to keep
Yeah.
him ready to pitch for,
Mhm.
whatever it may be, 30 games a year.
You know,
Um,
the biggest thing for us, especially as relievers, is availability.
right,
The more you're available, the more you can keep your body fresh and ready to go.
right,
The more times you're going to get the ball, the more times you have the opportunity to earn trust, and then next thing you know, you're moving up levels.
right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's down to.
Yeah, that's the conditioning side of things when, we have kids who are saying, my arm hurts, I'm sore, my legs are sore. This is that conditioning that goes on in the winter and sometimes in the summer all the way back, um, where you're just building your body up to be able to withstand all of this. 'Cause pitching is brutal on your body. I mean, you are just
Yeah.
you're tearing your entire your in your case, your left side apart every
Yeah.
time you pitch.
And to that point, like, and I felt victim to this when I was in high school and even in college a little bit. It's like if you always think you're going to go out there and compete feeling great, boy, you got something else coming. Because there's going to be days where you go out there and you're feeling 80%, 70% of what you normally do, you got to find a way to still compete. Whether that be, mixing in breaking balls or whatever you've got to do on that day that you don't feel great, and you get the ball and you got to go play. You got to make the most of it. You can't just, always just wait around to feel good. If you're waiting around to feel good, you're only going to feel good maybe 1 in 8 times, 9 times out of the game. So,
You just
just
won't pitch much.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
it,
if
it,
if
you,
if you're one of those guys that's sitting back and you're just like, "Well, I just don't feel it. I don't have." You get the, "I don't have it today." Well,
yeah,
okay, yeah, that might be your fastball. So let's work on,
mhm,
slider away, or let's work on change up in, or
yeah,
let's find something that is working. And then maybe later on, once you get those mechanics down, okay, let's go back to where what you're struggling with and see if that,
mhm,
has changed at all. So
yeah. I mean, there's very few times where I take the rubber feeling 100%. That's for sure.
yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I think that availability is the best ability. Um, and to your case, especially as a reliever at the level that you are at, I mean, you're only going to get so many opportunities. So your
Yep.
body is a machine. So, um, can you still hear me?
Yeah, you cut out a little bit.
Okay.
I didn't get much of that one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I was just saying that your body is a machine, and you gotta. The best ability is availability, like you said.
Yeah, uh,
Um.
no doubt.
All right. So long term goals. So you're obviously like I would assume as high as you can possibly go.
Mhm.
Um, but what are you seeing around you that you think could be kind of a short term, like stepping stones? Like what's a possibility? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, I think, near future goals. I mean, I think everybody needs to set, the long term and the near future. So it's like you never want to stay stagnant. And or professional baseball is, it's unpredictable. You might be at one level today, one level tomorrow, and they'll yo-yo you back and forth, and you just never know. So just you never want to stay stagnant in that standpoint. So it's like if you can jump a level year to year and get to that next step every single year, yeah, I think you're on the right track. And you mentioned you want to go as high as you can. So it's like for me, I got a saying that it's like you don't just want to get there, you want to stay there.
Yeah.
If you're just looking to get there, you're not in it for the right reasons. You want to look back and say, man, I had a 10, 15-year career in this thing. Like I was able to do something that, the 1% of the less than 1% got to do, is be that 10-year guy. So it just wanting to get there is one thing, but wanting to stay there takes a whole different, work ethic, a whole different ball game. So,
Well, yeah. I think a step a year. That's a great goal.
mhm.
Um, and the Nationals have a pretty good system. I
Yeah,
think that they're usually a pretty decent team, and they've brought some good guys up through their system. So, all right, so I'm gonna kind of turn it to that was kind of a lot of what I wanted to talk about with you. Um, I had some fun questions that I wanted to ask you. Some of the things
for
that
sure.
that
For
I
sure.
I remember from baseball that I always found interesting as well. Um, do you have any superstitions? Like, do you have something that you do every single time, or have? I guess maybe keep it PG-13 if you've ever seen Bull Durham
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
that
No,
kind of stuff. Yeah.
for sure gonna keep it PG-13. But I mean, no, for me, I'd say the biggest superstition that I have is obviously you never want to step on the line, but for me, in between every inning when I'm coming on and off the field, I like to kind of give it a nice little like hop or skip over the line. It's just something I've taken back all the way to high school, so it's something that has stuck with me, and I would say at anything, that's the one thing that you watch me go out today, and it probably holds true 99% of the time. If I've got, the pitch clock's a little bit different, so you got to, speed it up every once in a while. But if you got the time to do it, that's probably the one thing.
Yeah, never step on the line. I
Yeah.
that was my thing too.
Yeah.
I had one. It was like in high school. It was stupid, but it was like I wouldn't shave until we lost. But
Yeah.
that didn't mean anything because I didn't have hardly any facial hair at that point. So I was like, it was just
Yeah, I know, when I started, and this one had to change a little bit. When I started at Ohio State and, in high school, I would shave night before, every game I came out with a fresh shave. And that was my big thing. But now obviously you never know when you're going in the game.
yeah, it's hard to do it as a reliever for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, what about the bullpen? What's beside the routine, you get into a
Uh-huh.
game. Remember, I told you I was kind of a bullpen guy there for back
Oh
half of
yeah.
my career. But what's the bullpen like?
Yeah, we keep ourselves busy. Obviously, it's work. So you got to be somewhat locked into the game. But when that starter's cruising, there's some conversations out there that are fun.
Yeah,
But obviously, like at this point, you know what your role is. You know what you got to do to get ready for the game to get yourself going. But every once in a while, you like to just relax with the guys and have those fun conversations out there and
yeah,
play the play the stupid games.
yeah,
But for the most part, it's we're out there working. It's day to day. If you're It's a little bit more serious. But when you threw 3 innings the night before and your name's not on that lineup card, it gets a little bit interesting for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. And I'm sure, like, I know you're a pretty serious guy for the most part as far as like what your job is and what your role is. But I'm sure that there are some guys. I mean, I've been around some guys that are just if they know their name's not on the list, they can be pretty crazy out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a good time.
Yeah,
It's a good time out there. We play 140 some games out here. So if you're locked in for 140, hats off to you.
you're a mental case. Yeah,
There's sometimes you're just out there having a good time.
yeah. So this might be part of the bullpen, but what's the best story you've got from baseball so far? It could be funny. It could be just like you wouldn't believe this kind of thing. It's kind of off the cuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's a tough one. Best story. Mm, I don't know about that one.
stumped you. No,
You
that
saw.
one's a tough one because you have so many stories. So it's like
Yeah.
it's hard to put one on.
Um.
All right, I've
Best.
got one that'll help. Maybe it'll like narrow it
Yeah.
down here. What's
Yeah.
the
Let me hear one.
because you've played all right. So at the D1 level, especially at Ohio State,
Mhm.
and then even in Fredericksburg, like when you get to these like single A, double A, triple A, you get some crazy fans.
Yeah.
What's probably the craziest thing you've seen or heard come out of the stands?
Oh, I don't know if I can say that. Whew.
Yeah. All
I've
right. All
heard
right.
I've heard some egregious things come out of people's mouths.
Yeah.
Uh,
Who?
you know, I I would say the best thing that I've ever seen from like the fan aspect or like the mascot aspect, I should say, because that's where this one's gonna go. Was when we were out. I was out in the Cape, and the Orleans Firebirds have a guy who is in a red bird suit. And he would just walk laps around the field. And the Cape fields aren't like, they're not what you think they are. They're not stadiums. This thing was just built in like into a hill. So we would see him, inning to inning, just make his laps, make his rounds. And that guy, man, he would just come out in the bullpen. He'd heckle you for a few pitches, and then next thing you know, he's up on the top of the hill, just like making bird noises down onto the field. And I mean, it was a good crowd. That was Cape Cod. That was the playoffs when we were playing in Orleans. So it was a really good crowd. But that guy was interesting.
Yeah. Well, I assumed that you hear these stories about, and I don't know, you might be too young. I might be dating myself here. about like JJ Redick when he played, about how much hate he used to get from just because he was so good when he played college ball.
Yeah.
Um, about like the things they would say, that like UNC
Hmm.
would say to him when he played for Duke, and
Yeah.
um, I assumed, I guess I kind of set myself up for that question, that your Michigan fans, or some of
Oh
your
yeah.
other Big Ten opponents, they had some pretty hateful things to say to you guys.
Oh yes.
So,
Oh yeah.
well, Gavin, I greatly appreciate you coming on and just kind of chatting ball with me, and
Yeah.
spending some time here. Um, I I want to wish you all the luck, and that these goals just get closer and closer each and every day. But I know we back here, we follow along. We get updates for you all the time. So, um, I like I said, greatly appreciate you coming on and helping me out, and chatting with me.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, no problem. It was fun. It was a good time.
Well, all right, man. Well, I'll let you go. Good luck.
Oh yeah. You ever want any of those stories? Just let me know because
All right,
there's some nuts ones.
maybe for another time.
We'll
You're
save those
you're
ones.
a recurring guest now.
Yeah.
Y-
Whenever you need me,
All
I'm
right.
on.
Yep. I might hold you to that
Yeah.
every time you get bumped up and get some new
I'm
stories.
not. I'm not kidding. Mondays, man, I'm off. So if you want to talk ball, I am in.
Got it. Sounds good to
So
me.
yeah, just let me know. I can talk ball any day.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Gavin.
Yep, no problem. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Thanks.
See ya.